Welcome. In the time you spend here, we'll explore how shelters can better support pregnant and birthing survivors by identifying harmful policies and offering practical solutions. Let's reimagine shelter spaces as supportive, healing spaces for survivors in all stages of pregnancy and postpartum. Pregnancy and postpartum are critical periods for safety and care. Survivors who are pregnant often experience more control and isolations from abusers, and once they enter shelter, outdated rules may continue to restrict their autonomy and well being. Black, Indigenous, immigrant, and LGBTQ survivors often face additional systemic barriers, making shelter a critical safety net. But if shelter rules don't consider reproductive needs, they can actually push people out. Many shelter policies were designed for order and not care. When a survivor can't eat after a later appointment or must choose between having a doula or staying in shelter, we're forcing impossible choices. A survivor recovering from a C section may need to eat or rest at unpredictable times or need help breastfeeding. Prohibiting food in rooms or visitors like doulas forces them to choose between recovery and compliance. Policies that limit food access, restrict support people, or punish postpartum behaviors reflect institutional convenience, not survivor centered care. Punitive rules for baby crying at night can isolate or shame new parents. These rules aren't neutral, they're harmful. They come from a place of control rather than care. They also reproduce judgment, especially toward survivors of color and low income parents. Other policies, like requiring group participation or chores right after childbirth or having no private fridge space for milk, can cause survivors to leave or hide their needs. Locked bathrooms at night may pose a real risk for someone healing from birth. Survivors may feel punished for needing rest, pain relief, or lactation support, things that are medically necessary. These rules often disregard both reproductive care and trauma informed practice. When we create blanket rules without flexibility, we ignore the needs of bodies that are healing, breastfeeding, or bleeding. When a survivor has no control over their body, schedule, or support system, the shelter can start to feel like another unsafe environment. These policies often reflect institutional priorities over survivor well being and can lead to increased medical risk, re traumatization, and even survivors returning to abusers if their needs go unmet. Reproductive justice requires more than access to care. It means creating conditions where survivors can birth and parent with dignity. Our policies must reflect that. When we ask whether a rule might harm a pregnant person, we start to align shelter practice with real survivor support. These are real experiences. Survivors often navigate both trauma and postpartum recovery without food, support, or understanding. Shelter should never be another site of control or isolation. Supportive policy doesn't mean chaos, it means equity. Create flexible, written postpartum care accommodations. Make space for lactation and healing. Allow doulas and support people. These changes can be written into shelter handbooks and implemented quickly. Advocates and shelter staff can make a huge difference by creating tools like postpartum checklists or connecting survivors with birth workers. You don't need a medical license to support a birthing survivor, just compassion, flexibility, and community partnerships. Flexibility doesn't need a policy rewrite. Sometimes it just means offering options, acknowledging a resident by saying, I noticed you had a birth coming up, and asking, would it help to adjust curfew for your appointments? Or questions like, would you like a quiet room to rest or feed baby? Can I help you store snacks or meals for later? Even small moments of support, asking, listening, adjusting, can completely change someone's shelter experience. Flexibility can be simple and powerful. Engaging in ways that affirm autonomy are tools every advocate has. Shelter transformation starts with policy, but it's powered by people. Bring survivors into conversations, train staff, make structural change, but don't underestimate the day to day ways you show up for birthing survivors. Every survivor deserves healing, safety, and dignity before, during, and after birth. Have your local and national resources ready for the people that you serve. The National Human Trafficking Hotline is 1-888 373 7888. Michigan's Sexual and Domestic Hotline is 1-855 Voices 4. Partner with community organizations that support survivors. Your space can become a safe entry point for healing and effective services. Thank you for your commitment to pregnant and birthing survivors. With thoughtful advocacy and inclusive policy, we can create shelters that support every stage of healing, including birth. This video was developed with support from a grant from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Maternal Mortality Surveillance Program. The opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations expressed in this publication are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the view of the U.S. Department of Justice or the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.